Hey everyone, it's Dawn. I'm recording this the end of 2026, end of July 2026. I found this today and I just wanted to share it here because many of you have heard me talk about the seven wonders of the soul through the years, and I've referenced this document that I wrote on my birthday in 1997 after the cataclysmic events of the end of 1996 for me, which I lost my job. I lost a person that was important to me. And then kind of like very quickly, I was just lost. And as I, speak about it, sometimes worlds were turned against me. And like, this was pivotal for me because it was something that it was a path to my life that I committed to when I was 12, so 20 years earlier. And so what I'm going to share with you is from 30 years ago, from 1997, right after the first sequence of events happened. And you can read about that if you care to. It's very tumultuous, and I would write it different if I wrote it now. But it's in my memoir, Journey to Sacred Wholeness, which I wrote in right around this time in 1997. But I wanted to share this. I did come back after. So, like, what happened was I was sitting in my office. I had been into the job that I had been asked to leave, and I was encouraged to fight for my rights and file a lawsuit by several people, but I chose not to because I was so emotionally devastated, and I had kind of set myself up because I did what somebody told me to do, and made me look like I had a problem because I checked myself into a hospital. But yes, so this was on my a couple of weeks later. Actually, it was right after the 13th was my last official day, although I never went back into the office after, I think, December, mid-December. But it was devastating, and I had just come back from the last time into the office. I believe I was collecting my check and maybe had a meeting with a new executive. The timing of this was all crazy. But when I was leaving the office, I had collapsed in the elevator. It was on my birthday in 1997, and I was devastated, and I, barely made it home, and I just didn't know how I was going to go on. I had bought a house. My son was 3, I believe, and it was just really, really dicey time. But I got back home, and I sat in my office, and I could feel angels all around me, and Archangel Michael was definitely with me, and I prayed, and I asked for support, and I asked for guidance, and I asked, please show me a way. And as I sat there, I'm sure I've told you guys this before, but it all just came. I was handwriting I've since put it into more of like I think I must have when I wrote it, published it somewhere because it sounds very like, a little too put together. But when I actually wrote it, I was just like journaling. And then these 7 wonders of the soul came through with this entire like way that I could bring this to life that literally would have required me to have like Oprah's money to do it. Like, like a huge amount of wealth. And I had for years, I lost this, and I still don't have the original. I think unfortunately I don't have the journal entry anymore, which I wish I did, because then all those ideas are down. I remember a lot of it, and maybe one day, who knows? There's still time. But yeah, I've been looking for this document for a while, and so I just wanted to share it with you all. All right, this is what I really recommend too. If you are ever at a really low point and you don't know what to do, think about your values and principles and just ask Spirit to support you, and write from your heart about your journey and ask for guidance and direction to be given. Now, by the way, every time I've done this, I've done it multiple times, and I don't always get like a whole system like this that came through. So don't don't set yourself up for, with some giant expectation. Sometimes it's a simple sentence that'll come through, but I really do encourage you to do it. So here I just put it, as a title when I started, I just put how to begin again, principles for beginning again, and the date. God, how can I hold on? How can I begin again? Please, God. And angels, I feel you here with me now. Please give me strength so I can continue to give my child the love and support he needs and deserves. I don't know how to make sense of any of this, but I know you would have me to begin again. By the way, so I was a single mom, had bought a house 6 months earlier in the Atlanta suburbs, and my child was in daycare at this time, and I was about to have to go pick him up about a couple hours later. I think it was probably, I had all afternoon left that particular day. So I started by reflecting on the year I was 12, and I committed to sort of a path for my life. When I had an encounter with angels, which at the time, to be honest, I thought everybody kind of did. I literally didn't know until about this time that, oh, it's like that wasn't actually normal. That's not everybody's experience, but it was mine. And so I'll share. So this is from the article I later wrote about this. From strength to strength, 3 keys to life. In many ways, I trace my understanding of my own spirituality and my life back to those verses I read first from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love chapter, the year I was 12, and I made a choice for what would be the path of my life. And now these 3 remain: faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. The foundation are these 3: faith, hope, and love. They are 3 keys to life and the reclamation of the truest teaching through time. They have been a foundation for remembering who I am and why I am here. For many years now, I have seen from these 3 will emerge new wonders of the soul, building strength to strength and leading me somehow into some kind of rainbow for my life. While the greatest of these surely is love, I wonder if we can truly know love without faith. The reverse is true as well. I see these 3 as bound together and working together as one. Embracing the first and living from its value and the value drawn from it leads then to the other wonders of the soul. And then I wrote them out as they were given to me: faith, hope, love, healing, growth, passion, beauty. Faith is in part built on hope, as hope is sustained by faith. Love can be learned from faith and faithfulness, and without hope, it is doubtful we can know love. We find the courage to heal when faith, hope, and love overcome the doubt, despair, and indifference, which combine to produce within us a paralyzing fear. Only when we begin to heal can we grow fully into who we are meant to become. Expressing our passion and living in abundance is the natural result of an intentional choice to heal, to grow, to live fully from the truest part of who we are. And finally, one day we will become beautiful in the truest definition of the word when we embody these, the wonders of the soul: faith, hope, love, healing, growth, passion, and allow the power greater than ourselves to multiply these gifts through us and introduce others to a path to life. While the 7 wonders are not sequential, each supports the others and leads us on to the full expression of our authentic selves. When we use the principle of beginning with strength and building from there, we do more than simple self-improvement. We contribute something of value to the world, even as we grow in love back toward the creator of every good and perfect gift, whose handiwork is reflected in us and through us. Let's visualize the principle of building on strengths using the symbol of rainbow, pyramids, and prisms, and the kaleidoscope. And these were the actual images that were given to me that day. This is, I wrote this up a little more formal, but okay, rainbows. And this is the other reason I wanted to share it, because if you will notice, there is a lot of overlap with things that I talked about. The rainbow imagery and the prism imagery was huge back in 2024. And I spoke about, it was solstice, I believe, and I spoke about the prism, and actually going back to 2020 as well. But this moving into the time that was to come, which is the time we are in. And then in a moment, I'm going to talk about pyramids and prisms and peacocks, all of which are symbols that have come through in recent galactic messages. So that's the other reason I wanted to share this. So this section is called Rainbows and the Promise of Possibility. In my own journey, the rainbow has always represented God's presence in my pain. I have written about this in Waterfall Rain. That's now titled Journey to Sacred Wholeness, and you can find it on Amazon and my website. I have considered the rainbow as a symbol of beauty and the perfect promise of the coming together of all the right elements, the true colors of who I am, the space between sun and rain, the experience of being in the right place at the right time. Because of my own love for rainbows and their connection to my personal story, I relate these seven wonders of the soul that have been given to me to the seven colors of the rainbow. Not long after I first started thinking about the soul wonders, I saw a rainbow after a summer storm that underscored this principle of building on the strengths for me. The first three bands of the bow, red, orange, and yellow, were wide and fairly vibrant, but each succeeding color seemed to fade. The blues and violets at the top end of the spectrum literally melded into the palest of the blue sky. I do not know what is to become of me now, after so long of bringing back all the colors of me into one harmonic balance, for it to be shattered in such a way. So what had happened is what I sometimes refer to as my second shattering, and I had this long 30-year, healing journey, and I was finally whole. And really, like less than a year later, this is when all this happened, and it was as if instead of the six parts of me, the six selves I had long known, which I write about in the memoir, suddenly were like 1,000 tiny, like a field of stars. And so that was the feeling state I was in when I talk about it. All right, after so long of bringing all these colors back into harmonic balance, for it to be shattered in such a way, I do not think I will ever be any rainbow. And still, I know this is the truth of who I am, so I will carry the image of it, and I will hold the promise of the light shining through my heart long enough to bring me back to life. The next section is called Pyramids and Prisms, Remembering the Peacock's Tail. I love so many of the ancient cultures, the Egyptian dynasties to the Mayan civilization, and many indigenous tribes here in my own country. I'm from the United States. I am fascinated with the pyramids and how they have stood fast, their structure supported through centuries, filled with extreme weather, chaos, and war, conditions in some cases which wiped out entire civilizations, but still the pyramids stand. In similar fashion, I remember how I was captivated the first time I ever held a glass object that served as a prism, catching a single ray of white light. I watched this revelation that was mystery, how the light dispersed into multicolored, fan-tailed splay of beauty reminiscent to me of a peacock's tail. From the translucent rain of white to an amazing array of exquisite shades of light in different colors, the prism's process eventually had me contemplating the soul's journey and all the ways I was being brought to life in time. When and where internal confusion or external circumstance have threatened to eradicate all that was good in me and in my life, and have begun to eat away at my very self, I have sometimes felt a void of anything spiritual. Where was God anyway? Where was I? There seemed to be nothing but a void, the absence of color, the lack of light, the lack of faith, hope, and love. But God began to reveal to me the incredible hues that came from this dark experience anytime I allowed the true light of spirit to shine through me. I had to surrender this sacred vessel, my body, and let it be a prism, emptied of all that would block the flow of life that gives birth to light, and which the world recognizes as love made manifest. I had to be willing to let that light expose all the darkness and fetter out jewels hidden within me and meant to be received by me. I had to begin again, or try anyway, and now I must do the same. What is time? Asks the peacock, and he bids me to trust in the rising and transcend this present pain. I will stop and say just briefly that the peacock symbolism for me somehow connects, I don't know why, but at that time anyway, connected back to what my heart and soul had always remembered of 2,000 years ago. And so there's a lot of overlap here with the spirituality, because that had been my rock and my foundation. And yet I felt very much on the verge again of losing that connection. So just a little background. So I think now of the prism with its base and three sides converging at a single point. Now, picture faith, hope, and love as the three-tiered base of the prism, blending into a substance strong enough to stand the test of time. On the sides, imagine healing, growth, and passion joining together to create that pinnacle of beauty. This makes sense to me as a model for these 7 wonders. And then I wrote, Jesus says they are 7 suns, a crown of stars. How does God even reach through our healing, growth, and passion? I don't feel any of these. My own life experience has shown me, though, that God does use the healing of my heart, any growth that comes, and the passion that follows to shine through all obstacles. In a multitude of ways, God can use my weakness to remind me and others of strength found in what is everlasting and true. When we open ourselves to become vessels intended to reflect light, those who look back toward us see for a moment the beauty that culminates from such submission, which is, after all, true mission here. And they themselves find themselves reflected in our light. Beauty is built on a foundation of the faith, hope, and love reflected through our own life's journey and in the healing, growth, and passion that have come from our willingness to keep taking a single step. On the way, may we see one another as imperfect conduits for a perfect light that shines in the darkness and is always darkest before the dawn. The next section is called Kaleidoscope Projections and How It Is Somehow Enough. Kaleidoscopes shift and jostle broken colors. I'm noticing too that I'm having flashbacks to how I was that moment. I mean, I was a mess. I was a wreck. And yet I was reaching for the language of light and color and the healing journey I had been through in those 30 years that literally had been just like, it felt at that point as if it had completely been removed from me. Like suddenly I didn't even have the 6 things I had in the beginning. I certainly didn't have the whole me. And I didn't feel like splintered as if I was fragmenting, my personality. It was as if there was no personality left. There was nothing left. There was nothing. And so I was very much reaching for things I knew: light, color, healing, Jesus, spirituality, the angels that were very present. So kaleidoscopes, I've always loved kaleidoscopes. Kaleidoscopes shift and jostle broken colors to create intriguing, complex mosaics. I think of these patterns as patterns of potential, as mosaics of meaning. We must learn to look at the pattern of our lives from many angles to see the way the light shining through us can result in something far more beautiful than what we might have created on our own. When we look through the lens of faith, hope, and love, the foundation of that prism for change, and open a space for God's light to move through the long journey of our healing and growth, we may, over time, see before us our self transformed. An abundant life, a beautiful self. These are the exquisite results of our faithfulness to the spiritual path. What greater gifts could one ask for? It is enough. Somehow it will be enough. And I was really reaching here. I was like, I don't know. It was as if my higher self was like taking over, I guess. And because I was, like I said, I was a mess. I don't even remember. I remember when I found what I had written, which isn't exactly like this, but it's similar. It was a long, 10-page journaling document, but it also was very, like, tears were all over it. And I remember writing it and I was shaking, and yeah. All right, the next section is Principles for Beginning Again, My Path to Life. So here I am. It is my 32nd birthday. I am into my 33rd orbit, which, when I can scarcely find the strength to rise up from my bed and walk the 20 feet to this office space I have so loved, I do not believe in any beginning again. I don't think it is possible, but I know God believes, and I know I have come to be in this place in time for some reason far greater than any power that might hold me back or push me down or pull me under. I very much felt that. Now I understand why, but at the time I didn't understand why I felt such a dark force. I didn't understand it for probably 20 more years, but I know my life matters, and with the strength of my beloved Yeshua, I will choose a path of beginning again, a path to life that in time I feel certain God will reveal to me, however lost I may feel. I respect myself as a child of God, and I affirm that I am created in the image of God, gifted by the Creator to do good works. I accept my humanity, allowing myself to learn from any mistakes. I accept again hardship as a pathway to peace if this is what is necessary. I will offer up this cup that I would rather toss into the depths of the sea. I asked for strength to move beyond this baffling failure or disappointment. I was really blaming myself. This baffling failure or disappointment, and walk toward or be carried to a life rich with meaning. As I come back to life and live in full expression, I will begin with a choice to love and honor this journey I will make. However messy it may be, I know the way is always opening up, and I rise up from the floor of the elevator where I had collapsed. That seems always to be going down, and I take a step, a single step. I listen for the call of my soul, and I follow the star I had chosen on the first of the year. Every year I used to choose a theme for my life. I sort of still do. And that year was following the star. From this day forward, what dreams may die, what dreams may come, this shall be my path to life. And this is where Archangel Michael and the angels present with me literally wrote this and gave it to me. I said I was begging for principles to begin again, and I had written Faith, Hope, and Love, and they gave me exactly what I'm going to read to you now. So this is the original 7 Wonders of the Soul as they were given directly from Spirit. 7 Wonders of the Soul, my principles for beginning again. Faith. I nurture my faith in a loving God and allow my actions to flow from a core of faith. I practice gratitude and acceptance day by day, trusting God to give me enough light for the next right step, confident of God's everlasting, unfathomable love for me as I am in this moment. Hope. I carry hope in my heart. When all else fails me, I will rest in the knowing that hope is at the very heart of who I am and that there is no need for anything more. I light a single candle and I become one with the flame. I become a play of light even when I cannot get my bearings in this life. Love. I seek to love and honor in all that I do. I extend kindness, forgiveness, openness, honesty, compassion, and acceptance to those I encounter on life's journey. I let go and let love be enough. I know in this life I am making my way, and it is enough. I am enough. I am held in love, and I am here for love, to give and receive love, to see all things restored to love. Healing. I choose a path of healing and restoration. I open myself to the reality of past hurts and accept what has happened. I move beyond that to the joy that awaits. I face the future with courage and share hope with others where I have the opportunity to do so. I hold a space for the healing of the nations and begin with the healing of my heart. Growth. I grow in mind and spirit. As I explore, discover, create, and connect, I am changed. I am expanded radiantly. I am open to new opportunities and unexpected friends. I celebrate significant milestones in my journey toward growth, even knowing that this life's unfolding is filled with infinite opportunities for soul growth and expansion. Passion. I live passionately with a zest that rises up above any momentary thought of giving up. I give myself over to the moment, trusting God to carry me through to the next day, to which I will give my whole heart and soul, pausing to accept the gifts which nurture and replenish me as I go. Beauty. I celebrate the beauty of the world. I treasure the wondrous and lasting gifts of the relationships I have in this moment and those now ended, whether by my agreement or by acts that feel so far removed from love and beauty. I welcome the beauty yet to come. I am drawn toward what is beautiful. I contribute to the beauty of God's creation in whatever ways I can. So that is what I found today, and it just feels absolutely perfect to me because I'm very much at it hasn't actually concluded yet, but I'm very much toward the conclusion of a long passage here. On my birthday this year, 2026, was the releasing of that 30 to 33 year promise that I made to walk a certain path when I was 12. And the new has not shown up yet, but it's coming, and I will be stepping into something new very soon. And I'm so grateful because I can see, I remember me when I wrote that. I was so shattered, and then a series of things happened that were even more devastating, with the church asking me to leave in a year later, and my church kicked me out, and then all of these vast circles, professional networks, and spiritual networks and other groups of people were somehow turned against me that I didn't quite understand at the time. And then, I had, like I said, there was this second, what I call the second shattering. And it took me a while. It took me a couple years. I was just beginning to, I did have a great healing experience the summer of 99. And then right after that, I called to reconnect with my greatest teacher and mentor in this life, who I hadn't spoken to in about a year, about maybe 6 months. And I was in a different state, and he had passed away, and that was so difficult, and along with what else was happening in my life, which I didn't understand at all, which I now in retrospect do. But sorry, I'm so emotional. But what happened though was that the one thing that I held on to was this document. I had my journal, and I would look back even when I couldn't feel anything, and I would say it was probably, there was a dark years in there from about it started in 99 a bit, and also I was dealing with being on medication and other things. And then 9/11 sent me into what I call my 3 years of darkness. And while I was whole, and had that healing experience, I was so lost, and yet I was held through it. And that's why I wanted to record this. I think I just wanted to say to anybody who ever feels like you can't go on. And I felt that again this last 6 months at times. This will give you something. If you ask, it will be given. Something will be given. It may be a sentence. It may be a song. It may be a prayer. It may be a presence. It may be something like this, principles for your life. It may be a calling. It may be like something that came to me when I was 12, although that wasn't necessarily a devastating time for me. But my point is just ask, and I feel sure it will be given. So I hope that, something there was helpful for you. Lots of love. Bye.